Hey everybody, welcome. My name is Kurt, aka the Vitruvian Gamer, and today I'm here with a review. Yes, the second one I think on this channel. I'm working on this concept. Concept reviews. You know how reviews work, but it's not that easy to make them on a YouTube channel. So if you have any comments afterwards, let me know in the comments below what I could change to improve. Anyway, today I am reviewing a game by Richard Garfield, the designer of Magic the Gathering, King of Tokyo, and Bunny Kingdom, to mention a few of the big titles he made. It is published by Amigo. It plays 2 to 5 players, ages 12 and up. The community begs to differ, 10 and up might be possible, and I think that might be possible indeed, and plays in about 45 minutes. And the game is Carnival of Monsters. Now, Carnival of Monsters is a card drafting game where each player is this monstrologist trying to impress what's called the Monstrological Society. And the way to do that is by capturing these monsters in the magical lands where they live. How do we capture those monsters, you ask? Well, let's check it out at the table. This is how a game of Carnival of Monsters looks like when it's just set up. I didn't put everything on the board because there are a lot of tokens of these crowns, the coins in this game. There are a bunch of them and you will probably never need all of them, so I always set up a part of it on the board because that's more than enough. A game plays over 4 seasons, and in each season player will draft 8 cards in the standard drafting way. Each player picks one card, places it face down in front of them, and gives the other one to their neighbor. As soon as everybody has chosen a card, players either play the card or they pay a crown, if they have one, to keep the card and place it face down on their kept cards area right here. Sometimes players will be forced to keep a card that they maybe don't want, or they cannot pay the cost of the card. In that case, well, players will have to take a loan in order to get some money in order to be able to keep or play the card. Loans, sadly enough, they are worth minus points, so you don't want them, but sometimes they're still interesting to get and get something big out of it. Now, there are 5 types of cards in this game. Each player is starting with 2 of the random starting lands in this game. So they have a different back. So each player will start with 2 at random and puts it in their tableau here. So these are lands, and lands is what you need to capture monsters. Now, lands come in also in different sizes. You have the basic lands, as you have at the beginning of the game as well, which have a value of 1. But you have some distant lands as well. For example, these dark lands here, you see they have a value of 2, but you'll need already 1 dark land in play before you are allowed to play this into your area. So in this case, I would be able to play it because I have a dark land already. Some have even a value of 3 and ask for 2 of that type already. In this case, I only have 1 word of Shallows of the Depth, so I cannot play this Deeper Depths card. So if I draft this, I will have to pay a coin and put it in my kept pile. Now there are some special lands as well, the Dreamlands. Dreamlands are a place where these special monsters live. They cannot be used for any other type of monster, but those monsters can be paid with other types of land. More about that very soon. And talking about monsters, that's of course the second type of cards in this game. There they are. You have very basic monsters, and monsters have their name, their value. That's actually how many of their type of terrain they need to play, their cost, if you wish, and this is the type of terrain they want. In this case, this wormling wants a cave. So if I had at least 1 word of cave, I could play this into my tableau. Sadly enough, I don't. But should I have this Whisperer to draft, which doesn't focus at all, it's whispering the camera, then I need 2 dark lands. I already have 3, so I can use 2 of those 3, because the ones that are used, they go away, they are used in that season. I could play that right there. Now, as you can see, there are very basic monsters in the game, but there are also monsters that have a higher cost. For example, the Great Kraken. You need 3 of these water terrains to play it. Also, they are dangerous. The more of these symbols, the more dangerous that beast is, and you might want to defend against it later in the round. At the bottom you will see the high cost mostly gives you more points at the end of the game. Some cards have a special effect when you play them. If I would play this Grove Gnome, then I would get to draw a card from the draw pile, the big giant pile over there. And I could choose, as I always do, either to play it or to keep it on my kept pile, but then I will have to pay a coin for it. So if I draw something that I cannot play, I will have to pay for it anyway. And then we have the Dreamland creatures, which are these purple ones. They look awesome, that's for sure. They have a high cost normally, but the cool thing about these is that, well, they can be played using Dreamlands, which have a basic value of 3, which is pretty cool. But you can choose any combination of lands to pay for this cost. The downside is that they tend to be worth less, especially if you compare the price to it. And some of them are pretty dangerous as well. The next type of cards are event cards, and they have this image of a gazette, of a newspaper. And if you draft these and reveal it that you drafted this, you immediately get whatever it says. In this case, I would gain a cage token and put it somewhere in my play area. The fourth type of card are the staff members. They, if you want to play them, they have a cost. At the top right corner, in this case, this one would cost you 2 coins, 2 crowns, and they will have an effect. This is a special one. This is an intrepid explorer, and when playing, you choose which type of land it will become, or, well, they are specialized in. So for example, I could play this as another depth card. Other of these staff members will give you a bonus if something happens. For instance, each time I play a cave monster, if I have this one in my area and you play them somewhere next to you, then I would gain 2 crowns, which is always good. And then, last but not least, because this might score you a lot of points, you have secret goal cards. Now, these cards, when you draft these, you have to pay for it to put them into your kept pile, because you are not allowed to play them openly. So if you draft these, they always go here, and you always have to pay a coin for it. But this one, for example, will give me 2 points for each cave monsters in my menagerie. I will soon say or tell you what a menagerie is. After all cards have been drafted, then players have the chance to look into their kept pile and maybe, if they want, still choose one of their cards that have been put in there. If they are able to play it, they are allowed to. So for example, this case, I have a Dryad. Maybe I drafted it before I had a forest, and I could choose to play it if I wanted to. Or I could wait for another round, because sometimes that might be more interesting strategically. Now, after this has happened, now we are going for the hunt. The hunt means we're going to see if we can manage the dangerous monsters that we captured. So we add up every danger symbol in our tableau here, and in this case I have 2, and then we get help from the Royal Guards. The Royal Guards are depicted by these 3 dice, and these dice will be rolled by any player, and there are, well, in this case, this would suck, but there are results that give you one cage, and sometimes even 2 cages. So you add up everything you rolled, and you compare it to how many danger symbols you have. In this case, we rolled 1 cage, I have 2 danger symbols, so I have 1 short. Now, If I have a cage now in my supply, I could pay it in order to cancel the second symbol there. If I didn't have enough cages to clear out every danger symbol, I would have to pay 3 coins for each danger symbol that I didn't cancel. If I cannot pay those coins, then I will have to take 1 or more loans in order to do so. After we did the hunt, then we go to see if there is a trophy to be earned. Each season there will be a trophy card on the board, and these cards give you a bonus if you have the most of a certain type at the end of a season. Also, in this case, for example, this is the Enchanted Forest season, which means, in the first place, the first time any player plays his or her first forest creature, they get 2 crowns. But also, in the trophy phase, at the end of the round, the player who has the most value in victory points of that type of creature, so in this case forest creatures, I have 1 with a value of 3, so I have 3 victory points worth of forest creatures this round. If that's the most of all players, I get this card and I get to keep it somewhere in my kept pile, for example, and score 3 points at the end of the game for this card. If 2 players have the same for the most of cards or victory points of that type, nobody gets the trophy. After getting the trophies, all creatures or all monsters that have been captured, they get removed from their lands and they are put into this pile face down, which is the menagerie. That will score at the end of the game, but for the next round, if there is still a next season to be played, we start without any monsters in play, but all your lands are still there. So after playing 4 seasons, we get to the end game scoring, which is quite simple. You score every point that is mentioned on all your monsters that you captured in your menagerie. You score, of course, the points for every secret gold card that gives you points. You will score 1 point for each crown you have, 1 point for each cage you have, the points if you got some trophies, and then of course minus points for each loan. As you can see, a normal loan is minus 5 points. You tally up every player's score, and in the end, the player with the most points is the winner. And there you have it. This is Carnival of Monsters. Now first, before I talk about the gameplay, let's talk about components. The components are very decent. The cards are good. They're good quality cards. Of course, you could... Maybe some people want to sleeve these because, of course, you might recognize a card if it got damaged a little bit. But there are 215 cards in the deck, so this is a huge deck. Maybe you shouldn't. Well, if you want a big pile, whatever, you can choose. The board is okay. It's actually just a placeholder for everything that you have in this game. The tokens are great. Very good quality. Nothing to say about that. And there are many. There are so many coins in this game. You'll never need these in one game, or something special must happen. The only thing that's a little bit less is the player boards. They are just thick paperish boards, but they do what they need to do, and it doesn't bother me that much. It might have be nice to have a little bit thicker cardboard, but in the end, it's all very functional and it works. Talking about what works is the artwork. The artwork on the cards, especially the lands and the monster cards, they are phenomenal. It's just awesome artwork, so no complaints there. So components, very good. Now, gameplay of Carnival of Monsters. Now this is quite a pure drafting game. This is all about the draft, folks. So if you're into drafting, this might be very interesting for you. And although there is a lot of randomness, you have 215 cards in this deck, and it gets shuffled completely every time. There's no, like in Seven Wonders, 3 stages of cards or anything. All these cards get shuffled together, and you will draft these. So you never know what you're gonna get. But it's not all randomness, because you have to make smart choices. You have to figure out, do I want to draft a card for myself for now and score quick points? Do I want to draft this card for myself and pay for it so I can play it later, because maybe it's a big monster and I'm just going for all these forest lands, but I cannot afford this one yet, this big, huge forest creature, but maybe next round I can. Maybe I get a forest soon, but you will have to pay for it, and maybe it will never work. Will I draft a card that stops, well, that my opponent needs, because he will score big points? I have this cave monster, he can play it if I don't stop him from getting it. Also, will I pay for a card and take a loan? Because loans are -5 points, but maybe it's just worth the effort of taking -5 points and scoring more points. I mean, I get a trophy, I might score a lot of points for that creature, whatever. So, and the dangerous creatures as well. Do I take dangerous creatures into my tableau? How many of them? Do I have some cages to stop them? Do I have some staff that helps me fighting them? Will the dice work in my favor when the royal guards help us fight those or contain those dangerous animals? Very big, very interesting choices. So, there are very fun challenges in this game, cool decisions that you have to make, and it doesn't slow down the game. Sometimes people are thinking between some cards, of course, but the game has a very nice flow, and the box says 45 minutes, or at least Board Game Geek does, and this is correct. It plays in 45 minutes, even with 4 players. I haven't played 5 so far. I even think that if all players have played this game a couple of times, you can easily go under those 45 minutes, and I think we did that after a couple of plays. Now, there's also a 2-player variant, in which each player will get a draw pile of 7 cards at the beginning of each season, and after they drafted a card, they will draw the top card of that deck, and then out of all the other cards, together with that new one, they will choose one to discard. Now, this works very well, but you will notice that in a 2-player game, scores will be lower, because the 2-player game, with that system of discarding a card before you give the cards to your opponent, makes it that hate drafting, so getting rid of cards that your opponent might need, is a bigger issue in that type of game, in that variant, so scores will be lower. For me it works, but maybe for some people that might be an issue. Now, this game didn't get that much attention at Spiel. It sold out, but I don't think they had too many copies of it. And despite the pedigree of Richard Garfield, this game flew under the radar and is still flying under the radar, and the game deserves more attention. I believe this is an awesome game, one of the biggest surprises, one of the best games for me of 2019, and despite the randomness that's in this game, despite the big huge deck of cards, maybe because of the big deck of cards, you never really know what will happen during a game and what your strategy must be. Yes, it's maybe there is some push your luck to it in this game, but I really dig it. Also, so far I've played it with multiple people, and so far it has been a big success. Now, of course, the first thing you think with the designer, Richard Garfield, Magic the Gathering, lands cards, monster cards, you think of Magic the Gathering itself. Now, I'm a former Magic the Gathering player, and although this game has nothing to do with Magic at all, still it gives me some feeling of nostalgia. But then again, it's not Magic at all. Don't think that because there are lands and monsters. It's a very different game. This is a pure cool drafting game, and for me, it's one of the best games of 2019. So, in the end, very good game. I very much recommend, if you like drafting, if someone you know has a copy, try it out at least, and you're probably going to like it quite a bit. On the Vitruvian gamer scale, this game will get 4.5 Vitruvian men. Okay folks, that's Carnival of Monsters for you. I hope you like this review. It's still something new for me. This time I came more prepared. This time I wrote things down. So I hope I got everything mentioned that I wanted to mention. If you think there's still room for improvement, let me know in the comments below. If you played this game, let me know as well and tell me what you think of this game. And besides that, if you feel like watching more stuff on this channel and you're not subscribed yet, well, there's somewhere a button in the vicinity. Thank you for watching this video anyway, and I hope to see you next time as well. See you soon. Bye bye.